Coming up in the news, an independent analysis says value-added tax and proposed investments are influencing a possible turnaround of the local economy. The National Vice Chair of the Free National Movement outlining some of the challenges the government has faced over the past 2 years. And nurses lauded for their role in healthcare.
The Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shoshana Wolf-Arkinson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news this evening, a member of Lucayne Holdings Limited, the government's special purpose vehicle that controls the Grand Lucayne Resort, is expressing great optimism about the future of Grand Bahama and the resort property. Attorney Kerry Leonard says for the first time in many years, Grand Bahama's future looks promising. He credits the recently announced government initiatives and the increase in value-added tax for helping to put Grand Bahama and the country on a more stable path.
I believe that had we not had the VAT increase, you would have seen a devaluation in the Bahamian dollar. So I really think that the step that was taken there was the right one. I also agree with the Fiscal Responsibilities Act. I get as a citizen, and a voter, I get quarterly reports now on how my government is doing and how my government is spending money. I may not have it in minute detail, but at least I'm getting an overall picture of what's going on. I think that's making those in government, especially in the civil service, more accountable for how they spend their money.
Attorney Kerry Leonard says while he does not see the full illumination of light at the end of the tunnel just yet, he says after years of being in an economic slump, he finally sees a spark on Grand Bahama. He credits some of the government's decision over the past 2 years for the island's shift, beginning with the increase in value-added tax.
They do not want to be in this, and they want to be out of it as soon as possible, but not at the cost of the Bahamian people 2 or 3 years down the road. So make sure you get it right. Everybody's working hard. It looks as if things are coming together, but you never know until the final deal is done. And we're not there yet. But we are definitely working towards it. And I will say this, that, and I hope I don't get into trouble for saying this, but the current operations for January, February, March, and April, we will have beaten the occupancy rate and the room rate that Hutch had. We've done better as a sort of what I call an amateur group running the hotel has been able to do a better job than and really I shouldn't say amateur, because we've got professional Bahamian staff who have finally been allowed to show what they're capable of doing.
Leonard is a member of the Lucayne Renewal Holdings Limited, the government's special purpose vehicle that controls the Grand Lucayne Resort and is responsible for the sale of the island's premier hotel property. He says while he did not agree with the way the government acquired the hotel, he believes that it was the right thing to do for Grand Bahamians.
I would like to see the government finally produce the legislation for the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement in the port area. You will recall that just before the last election, the former government passed a bill. There were areas in it, and I know from talking to a former minister, they knew they were going to have to amend it. But right now, the way it's worded is you have a form of double taxation. The only people that can get relief from real property tax would be those who are licensees. But what about the second homeowner? We've been talking about the national health insurance, but nobody has told us how they're going to plug the $100 million gap in the Ministry of Health. Their auditors' reports have been out for a few years, and so if we can plug that gap, then perhaps we can have national health insurance. But otherwise, I think that's a cost that we as a country can't afford. Right?
He shares how Bahamians are also expressing a great level of optimism in the Grand Bahama community.
I know within in our firm that, and I'm a commercial lawyer, that this year I've probably had more commercial work than I've had in 5 years. So, and I'm not just talking about the foreigners. I'm talking about small Bahamian businessmen who are seeing opportunities, who are saying, right, I think I'll form a company here and I want to start this business. These are small entrepreneurial Bahamians who see potential and see a business coming, and they're getting ready for it. I don't know what's really behind there, but there is something going on. There's a definite undertow that's there now.
Well, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Peter Turnquist, says that the government feels encouraged by what is happening on Grand Bahama, where tourist arrivals are up 8% and a number of major investments have been announced. In March, the government signed a letter of intent with Royal Caribbean Cruises Limited and the ITM Group for the purchase of the Grand Lucayan Resort and the redevelopment of the Freeport Harbor. The government also signed a heads of agreement with Carnival Cruise Lines for the development of a cruise port in Sharp Rock, East Grand Bahama in February, and Turnquist anticipates the effects will be felt soon.
Those two will be the catalyst for the real economic turnaround that we're hoping for. And so I think we're on the right path, and I think very shortly, certainly within this calendar year, we will have reason to celebrate and for Grand Bahamians to return home to help build our island.
Meantime, the National Vice Chairman of the Free National Movement admits that the government has faced challenges and roadblocks over the past 2 years. Evaluating the government's performance since winning the election in 2017, he says there were some teachable moments along the way. While the government boasts of making strides in its efforts to turn around the Grand Bahama economy, there have been many challenges and backlash along the way. Many have called out the Prime Minister for increasing value-added tax from 7.5% under the Christie administration to the current 12%, while noting that it was the Prime Minister himself, while in opposition, who insisted that increasing taxes was the lazy way out. Vice Chairman of the F&M Council, Attorney David Thompson, says once in government, hard and unpredicted decisions had to be made.
When you're out of government, you've never been in government at all in terms of governing the country. You really are, for the first time coming into office as a prime minister, all of a sudden, all of those things you didn't know while you was in opposition, because, you know, when you're in government, you know things. When you are in opposition, you don't know nothing. Believe you me. Having come to office, you would have the experts advise you as to what is the best road for you to travel in order for you. Having gotten the mandate of the people, 35-4, what's the best way for you to make sure that this country improves and grows? And if you're smart, as our Prime Minister is, you would listen. And you would have to make the hard decisions. You would have to accept the challenges and say, this is what we must do.
The government was also criticized for the $5.5 billion OBAN project that has been overshadowed by controversy following the signing of the heads of agreement between the government and OBAN Energies.
Every project that promises new jobs, more employment, are things that need to necessarily be considered seriously. And so if there is some merit to OBAN, I would expect that would be promoted. And if the government of the Bahamas, who have much more knowledge about these things than we in the public, who have much more knowledge about these things than anyone other than who sits around the cabinet table, the government will make a decision that is in the best interest of Grand Bahama and of the Bahamas.
But he says 2 years in, the government can boast of many projects on the table, like the LOI for the Grand Lucayan Resort, a $200 million cruise port, small business and development center, Grand Bahama's new position as a technology hub, among other initiatives in local communities. However, he shares one challenge he believes the F&M government has sought to correct.
Making sure that we have the necessary public communications to ensure that Bahamians know what is happening, know where to go and what to do in terms of getting benefits. And we were challenged in that. Communications were not the best. We are hoping that communication improves. The Prime Minister recognizes that, and that is why he hired Erica Wells as a communications person in the Office of the Prime Minister to help us improve with our communications.
Thompson adds that he knows that Grand Bahamians have been promised many things, but he admonishes them to hold on, assuring that help is on the way.
I understand entirely that we are a people in Grand Bahama who want to see it and touch it and feel it in order to believe it. I live in Grand Bahama and I'm one of them. And so I am happy to be the messenger of good news to say, finally, from 2002 to now, finally we are on the road where, like other places in the Bahamas, like New Providence in the Bahamas, we could say, here's what's happening for Grand Bahama. Here are new projects for Grand Bahama. Here are hundreds of millions of dollars being pumped into the Grand Bahama economy, because from 2000 to now, we were a desert and we couldn't even find water to drink. Thank God for 2017 and the FNM.
In other news, the Minister of Health commending nurses for their outstanding work in the healthcare system here on Grand Bahama. Speaking at the opening ceremony in celebration of Nurses Month, he assured them that improved working conditions tops the ministry's agenda. Jamila Mizik was there.
Often referred to as the backbone of the health services industry, nurses in Grand Bahama celebrating Nurses Month with an official opening ceremony and awards presentation. Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands, addressing the nurses, says although this year the Ministry of Health has been asked to prioritize their spending wishes, he says improved conditions for nurses ranked in the top 2, adding that nurses are the most important part of the healthcare system.
Most of the people that have an interaction with a healthcare provider have an interaction with a nurse. Even in our primary hospitals, our major hospitals, whether it's Sandilands, whether it's Princess Margaret Hospital or the Rand, the contact time with a patient and a family member to a healthcare provider is primarily with nurses. And so you are truly an important part of the team. And even though you may not feel as if you're appreciated at this time, I can assure you, certainly to me and to this administration, you are.
The minister adding that the country needs all nurses as they have an important role to play in the lives of so many.
Every single human being deserves respect, love, and support. And there's nobody better trained to do that than nurses. Yes, you are a commodity that's being recruited to come to places north, Canada, the United States, Great Britain, and elsewhere. But certainly, your country is also in the fight to try to keep you here. I would like to say again that we appreciate you, we respect you, and we're looking for tangible ways to show you that every day.
Keynote speaker, senior nursing officer, and president of the Nurses Association, Rebecca Johnson, says she hopes to impart the International Council of Nurses theme, Nurses, a Voice to Lead, Health for All, by explaining to nurses what it means to have a voice.
How do you express yourself? How do you look around and see what needs to be changed in your healthcare system, in your workplace, in your community? And then how are you going to speak out about that issue? I also can talk about leadership, what the qualities of good leader in terms of perseverance, in terms of not being afraid to step forward and lead that change. Other qualities in terms of being trustworthy, being able to work with other persons, because a lot of times when it comes to change, we can't do it by ourselves. We need to be able to network and work with people. And I'm going to challenge the nurses here in Freeport to be the voice of the next generation, step forward and see and speak about issues and make the positive change in Grand Bahama.
Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
In other news, a local organization continuing to do its part by investing in the community of Grand Bahama for decades. The Grand Bahama American Women's Club has been giving scholarships to students from various high schools as well as organizations. Well, a special awards dinner was held last evening at the Ruby Swiss restaurant for the 2019 recipients. Natalia Hall has more.
Over 50 years ago, the Grand Bahama American Women's Club began the Scholarship Fund to assist students who have excelled academically, as well as organizations who help the community. The funds for the scholarships are raised at the club's annual golf tournament. This year, 18 students were selected from various high schools on Grand Bahama. Professor at the University of the Bahamas, Veronica Ferguson, congratulating the recipients and giving them some words of encouragement.
The words fearfully and wonderfully allows us to see that we were created by God intentionally. And the thing that is amazing is we were created on purpose with a purpose. So each one of us has a purpose. Young people and those who are young at heart, you are alive at a most amazing, exciting, and frightfully exhilarating time in the world. You are generation powerful and generation possible with unlimited potential.
She says people should know that living your best life is all about being the best that you can be.
Giving every task your best and prioritizing everything you do because you know that greatness lies in you. It means saying no to ungratefulness, laziness, doing just enough to get by, because you understand that you unleash more blessings with a grateful heart than with a spirit of entitlement or ungratefulness. Always say thank you. It sets off a chain of blessings for you.
And the educator says that failure is the most important part of success.
Learn from your failures, your disappointments. Albert Einstein was considered academically challenged and forever foolish in his dreams. But look, his theory of relativity is the backbone of physics. Our very own Sidney Poitier was rejected by a casting director and told to become a dishwasher. Walt Disney was told his ideas lacked imagination and his theme park idea was laughed at. Failure is like fertilizer. It stinks for sure, but it makes things grow faster. A quote from Drake. I know you all listen to Drake. Sometimes it's the journey that teaches you a lot about the destination, end quote. Enjoy your journey to success and never stop learning.
The scholarships were then presented to the students. It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News.
You're watching the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Stay with us. There's more news on the other side of the break.